Hey guys, I think we are live. Please let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me. Let me fire this thing up. This is the round 24 rapid reaction. We'll get underway by the 2-minute mark of this video, talk about another tough round on the punt and also a very eventful round of footy. Just one to go. Just let me get my graphics. We've got a video from Top Sport to come through as well. Hopefully I've got this all set up here. Cheers. Share it into the tripod group as well. If it's worked. Yeah, looks like it might have worked. Thanks for tuning in as always, guys. I'm sure the Storm screwed a lot of people's bets up. I will definitely talk a lot about that game. Pretty much the most shocking result of the season, really, when you take all the context of that one. Yeah, tough week for sure. Even right down to the Panthers game could have been a good week. But no, it didn't go our way in that one. Yeah, again, that Eels Storm game was crazy. Welcome to the Tripod, where we break down the NRL every game, every week from a punting perspective. I'm Jacob Wynn. This is the live round 24 rapid reaction recap pod. Pretty eventful round. Plenty of sad events for the pod again because it was a tough round. Again, another losing round, 2 and 3 on best bets. So this was a round that included snapping the losing streak, building a winning streak, and then we're back on a little losing streak, losing the last 2 plays of the round, including the second half play that just concluded a few minutes ago. But I'll talk about each and every game and how they went down, and also eventful just for the makeup of the NRL. Obviously, one round to go. Very fascinating set of events that have unfolded, which is now going to shape how the top 8 shakes out, the top 4, and even right down to the minor premiership and who's in contention for this. I think a lot of things were in motion this weekend, so I'll try and touch on all the major points that I took away from this round. We lost the mixed matchup as well, so that was a streak buster as well, because we won 7 mixed matchups in a row from about Magic round. So from round 10 or 11, we won 7 in a row. We had 1 loss, and then we won 6 in a row. And I keep saying how it's been kind of crazy and a crazy run that we've been able to be on. And unfortunately, this one was a bit of a creative one. And we're testing a theory that I had, which was that the big gun sides would really pinpoint round 24 to really try and excel and put their best foot forward and build the form that they want to bring into the finals and the habits that they want to take in, and then potentially put some players on ice and unwind a little bit and not go for it too much in round 25 if they don't have to. And the theory didn't really play out. If we looked at the round, in fact, the 3 biggest favourites of the round didn't cover the line. And in fact, the Melbourne Storm were upset outright. And as I said before, I think that's the shock of the season. There has been one bigger upset this season, which was the Roosters beating the Broncos. When the Broncos beat the Roosters, like 26-point favourite getting upset. The Storm was more like a 22. But when you take in all the context, which I'll get to, I think this result on the weekend was even more shocking. So even when we rolled into today, I put the poll in the group, and I was still feeling pretty bullish on the mixed matchup. We needed a couple of 30-point favourites to win by 60 combined, but you just got that sense that Manly and Penrith just weren't as sharp as they've been in previous weeks, and plenty of drop balls across the line. So that streak comes to an end. It's just not a bet. I know it feels like free money sometimes, but we take the risk every week. It's not a bet that can win every week. So unfortunately, we'll be back at it again next week. Only a couple more weeks where we'll be able to do the mixed matchup, where we'll have enough games to do it. So look forward to next week, because round 25 is going to be a doozy. officially, we got paid out on the 15-1 multi. The Dragons did lose, and that was a winning best bet. But yeah, overall, guys, you're getting a front row seat. Hopefully, it's entertaining. Hopefully, people still taking some things away. Even some of the games where the best bet didn't go our way, I feel like I did have a pretty good grasp on how the game was going to unfold, but that is punting as well. Part of it is you want to be able to judge how a game's going to go, and then you've got to pick the right market within that. As we look at the first game of the round, I liked the Knights, but my best bet was not a winner because I picked the wrong market to actually back the Knights in. But that's the highs and lows of punting, and you're seeing it all unadulterated, all unfiltered, in this case live. And as I said, there's been some highs and lows for me. The absolute low was going home after I was actually at this Knights-Titans game, and after on the back of a loss where, in fact, the Knights won as an underdog but didn't cover in the first half. That was the 11th loss in 12 best bets, I think, running back to round 22. And I was really kind of just soul-searching and feeling pretty low, to be totally honest. And ultimately, when you're losing bets, there are going to be a lot of people that let you know about it. People that are really unhappy are going to let you know about it. And then there's some people out there that are quite happy to see you lose, and they let you know about it too. But what I ultimately say to myself is, if you can't deal with losing bets and copying it, then you can't be tipping publicly, because that's just part of it. That just comes along with the territory. And I'm well aware of that. I've done this for 7 seasons now. So I'll always just keep giving it my best and hopefully sharing some insights and hopefully sharing a few more winners to close out the season as well. I'll get through all of the games, but I do actually have a quick market update from Top Sport. Tristan letting us know their best results from the bookie perspective as well as their worst for round 24.
Hello, Tripod family. It's Tristan Merlihan here from Top Sport. What a weekend has just been. The upset result for the Eels against the Storm was one of the biggest upsets we've seen for a long time, considering both teams' form. And even the Bulldogs looked to do one better. And at half-time, they had a lead against Manly, but obviously class prevailed in the end. Unfortunately for the people on the Tripod mixed matchup for the weekend, it probably looks like it's going down. I'm doing this at half-time in the last game of the round, but we did pay out the season multi, so well done for everyone getting involved there. Very solid selection by Jacob on picking that out. Very hard to find $15 shot winners, and he's done that. Got very close with the Olympics one as well, obviously. So that gave us a bit of a hit over the weekend. From our point of view, the weekend revolved and got us out of trouble with the Melbourne result. The worst game of the weekend by some margin was actually the Cowboys-Dragons game. The Cowboys got back so heavily. They got back from about 220 into favourites, and we got absolutely smashed with that. There was a lot of multis leading into other options, but we did get out of trouble with the Melbourne game. Interesting weekend coming up where all eyes will be on the team list on Tuesday. There's a few teams still in contention for that last spot in the 8. The Sharks, the Raiders, and even maybe the Titans if results go their way. So there's rumours the Storm might be resting players. Whether that still occurs now with the loss on the weekend, who knows? Then obviously the Roosters are going to be down on troops as well, so the Raiders may fancy their chances there. Hope everyone back to winner over the weekend, and we'll chat to you during the week.
So congratulations to everyone who jumped on the 15-1 multi. Tristan told me there was about 400 accounts jumping on that back in late February, early March, and a liability of $250,000 that Tristan was nervous about. He was telling me even back in February, March, that a lot of people were on that bet back then, but we had 7 different legs had to come through, and in the end to win even before the end of the season. And I know we only officially got paid out this weekend, but really the Dragons were a very long odds to make it. So to win a 15-1 for the season quite comfortably on the back of winning that Euros tip, on the back of the Olympics tip missing by 1 gold, it's been a pretty awesome run for the value plays. And I will tell you, I'm going to be cooking up another value play for the NFL season, and I'm going to collaborate with some of the sharpest NFL minds in the Tripod group, and it'll be along the same lines. Let's give you something with multiple teams involved that you can cheer all NFL season long, whether you're diehard or whether you're just casually following along. Bit of value, bit of interest. So I'll work on that in the next week. I totally agree with Tom's comment there, so that you shouldn't bet if you can't handle a losing streak, and you shouldn't be emotional. I will say when it comes to me and sharing tips, like pretty much impossible to have no emotion. I put like everything I have into this, but I do try and control them and not let like emotions choose a pick. And it also is like I'm talking about, you shouldn't really share tips publicly if you can't handle like a lot of scrutiny. It is really magnified as opposed to any better is going to, undergo losing streaks and is going to get a little bit emotional. But I agree with that point that's a lesson for people who watch and follow. And I know people have had a lot of frustrations with losing tips in a row this season. And I kind of think, well, we wiped out probably 10 or 15% of the profit that we had built up all season long. But it's not as if we've somehow lost a house or something like that. Some people make it out to be. So I guess it's a lesson for everybody that losing streaks happen no matter how good of a run you're on or how good you think somebody else is. Let's get into the games quickly. So Knights Titans, I was really looking forward to this one. Thought it would be a high quality game. I went along actually on the sunny coast. Not a good start for the Knights, conceding the opening try, and I took them plus the half a point in the first half. They basically didn't touch the ball for the first 15 minutes. But I think then the Knights got back into the game, got on top. Kalen Ponga scores. We're 6-all. Just a few minutes to go in the half. It's a Knights penalty, like 5 minutes to go in the half. On the attack, drop it cold, first tackle. Invite the Titans into their territory. Survive when the Titans throw it over the sideline. Okay, we've got like 3 minutes to go in the half. Drop it first or second tackle again. We're inviting them in. David Fafita, who had only come on a couple of minutes ago, I was sitting with the boys, including The Undertaker, shout out. And I said, Fafita's going to just burn us right at the end of this half. And what hurts even more, watching it live, I had a feeling he was going to score. Watching the replay, they fully had Fafita covered. But, of course, he bowled 3 guys over. He scored a try. Titans got in front. Titans didn't score another try the rest of the game. In fact, they managed just 2 more points. The Knights came back in the second half. And even all second half, I was saying to the guys, I just feel this game's going to end on a Mitchell Pearce field goal. It's exactly what happened. And it is very frustrating when you take a team that was an underdog across the board and you take them in an underdog market. They win the game outright, but you don't win. But again, I talked about that at the top. It's about bet selection too. Try and figure out how a game's going to go and then try and find the best way to exercise that edge. And it didn't work out for me. I do want to dive a little bit deeper into the whole psychology of which side was the right side and breaking down this Knights-Titans game, because I actually feel like there was 3 levels to how you picked who you liked in this game. If you didn't have a rooting interest or if you didn't have any bias in this game, I think your average man on the street looked at the Knights-Titans and he said, well, the Knights have won 4 in a row. They're coming into form. They've got Kalen Ponga. The Titans have lost a couple in a row badly. I'm back in the Knights. That's pretty square opinion. In this case, it would have won. I think then your next level punter looks at this game and goes, well, I know Titans have lost 2 in a row, but their season is on the line here. They've had a longer turnaround. The Knights have been winning, but they haven't been convincing. So I'm going to take the Titans here. And we actually saw a flipped favourite, and it flipped from Knights to Titans. And I think that was the reasoning behind the move and a lot of confidence behind the Titans. And then I think there's a third level to handicapping this game, which was the one I was on, where I felt like the Knights wanted this game every bit as much as the Titans. They had a plan that they can rest players in round 25 if they could get the result in this one. The Knights are the better team than the Titans, and I think this game showed it out to be that way. I know there's only a field goal in it, but I think the Knights, if they'd had a bit more ball security, they wouldn't have been down in the first half. And I think the Knights are the better team. The Knights are deserving of a spot in the finals, whereas ultimately the Titans aren't. So I actually think sometimes you've got to look beyond that kind of first level of the handicap to find the sharp side. I do believe the Knights were the sharp side. Maybe some people did well by backing them head-to-head or plus the 2.5, which is available the next game. Moving to Friday, where the Warriors played the Raiders, and the Raiders won 28-16. And we had a best bet on this game, which was Raiders over 4.5 tries. And that was a nice, easy win. Always looked like it was going to win. No, of course, that was probably the luckiest win. I was even talking to Alex about this on the weekend. Perhaps the luckiest win we've ever had in 7 years. I'm talking about 4,500 best bets we've shared across mostly NRL, but also basketball, NFL. I can't remember one winning like that. So, as I said, coming into that day, feeling as low as you could possibly feel and looking like it was going to even just be that little bit worse, the Raiders only had 3 tries with a couple of minutes left in the game. It was, I think, 16-all at that point in time. They were actually down 16-0. Now, from my point of view of needing points in this game and needing the Raiders to throw it around, I didn't mind at all that the Warriors got in front. I thought that would encourage the Raiders to promote the footy and to play positive footy. So that was all fine. But geez, they left their run late. The Raiders get a try just before halftime. They get a try just after halftime. Still feeling okay. Raiders start to get on top in the match. But as I say, it took a try with 2 minutes to go, a regathered kickoff, a set of 6 where the Raiders didn't do anything at all. If you didn't see the game, they were just happy to kill it off. Obviously, they were up 22-16, didn't need to do any more. And I was just going, oh my goodness, 4 tries and we need over 4.5. I really was close to playing Raiders minus 5.5. Why didn't I do that? And the final moment of the game where, I've watched that many end games scenarios in rugby league, and we even saw a new one this year where Sam Walker ran backwards, but you kick it into touch. You just run it. What you never do is kick it to the opponent. You definitely don't kick it to Reece Walsh, but for whatever reason, the Raiders put up a bomb. Reece Walsh, who'd actually been really solid all night, spills the bomb. There's a miracle pickup by Hudson Young. He's still got 3 blokes tackling him and has to wrestle to get it down, gets it down. And this is after the full-time siren for the Raiders to hit 5 tries. We needed over 4.5. That's nothing more than a miracle. And that definitely had to feel good. Felt good for me. Had to feel good for a lot of people that had stuck with the best bets. I just felt like after so many close losses, and if you go back to those 11 losses in 12, I think 9 of them within a try, it just felt like we're never getting any of the close ones to go away. And then to win that on a miracle, I just felt like, all right, I can't complain anymore. That is as lucky as it gets. A huge win for the Raiders. Gives them still a real big shot of making the 8. We'll look forward to next weekend where they play the Roosters. And I'll tell you now, I'd be shocked if the Roosters play any of their significant players next week, especially after the carnage that was in this game. This was a game a lot of headlines came out of. You guys probably have heard them all already, but the Rabbitohs beat the Roosters 54-12. And we've got Latrell wiped out for the season with suspension, as you know. That does have massive implications for reducing the ceiling of the Rabbitohs, who I really did think were a contender, definitely a team I was expecting to be, in the prelim at the very least, and was going to be a big handful for Penrith and the Storm. And losing Latrell just drops how formidable the Bunnies are. And then on the other side of things, while the Roosters, I didn't think that they were going to have enough troops to make a run to a grand final. I had a feeling this Roosters side is still going to be massive nuisance value in the finals because of their coaching, because of the class of players like Teddy and Joseph Manu, who's now out for the season. And of course, I think people forgetting Angus Crichton's still suspended, Victor Radley's still suspended. Warrior Hargraves has been in and out the side. There was a possibility that in a couple of weeks, this Roosters side could have actually named a really strong 17 that could have caused a lot of problems to sides, where now you're losing yet another superstar. So that really, really hurts the Roosters. And they're not going to make the top 4 now. They've relinquished that position by losing this game. In theory, they could beat the Raiders next week, and Manly could lose, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think the Roosters are even going to try that. I think Robbo definitely gives his team the bye next week. In terms of what happened in this game, also another point to take forward, TKO suffered a knee injury. We don't know the severity. We know he came back on and then couldn't go and then got taken off again. The game itself, after having no ball, and as you recall, a frustrating loss for us when I tipped the Bunnies against Penrith and they blew that 12-point lead. Well, they had plenty of ball against the Roosters and they got themselves up 24-6 at halftime, and they showed how deadly they can be when they get possession. But this game flipped a little bit in the second half. Roosters got back to 24-12, still felt Bunnies in control, but then, of course, you had the Latrell Mitchell incident, high contact to the head, forceful as well. And, of course, it results in a sin bin, definitely an argument. It could have been even worse than that. But anytime you get a sin bin in the modern era or in the modern age of the game, you're pretty much par is scoring a converted try in that 10-minute period. And teams sometimes do even better than that. So sin bin is huge with the speed of the game. So you felt it was a real opportunity for the Roosters to get themselves back in. In fact, it didn't work out that way. The Bunnies scored with 12. And I think that really broke the Roosters' spirit, because then Latrell came back on. And with 12 minutes to go, the Bunnies scored 4 more converted tries, closing the game with 30 straight points and winning the game by 42. Clearly, the Roosters had given everything they could give there and were probably a bit rattled, if anything. That was a great result for us for the mixed matchup. That was the first of the 4 big guns I took. We needed a combined winning margin of 90. We're getting nearly halfway with the least likely of the 4, with the Rabbitohs. Felt fantastic about that going into the rest of the weekend. Of course, we didn't know what was going to unfold there, and it did not work out our way, unfortunately, after all that. So if anything, I was just left kicking myself for not laying the minus 11.5 with the Bunnies. One more point on the Rabbitohs. I'm pretty sure they're pretty much secured in third position. They may have a chance to fight their way up to second, but that's really irrelevant. That's not neither here nor there. So the Rabbitohs would be another team that I would definitely expect quite a lot of big guns could be sitting out in round 25, something to keep an eye on. Moving to Saturday, we had a best bet in this game. We had a win. That was the Cowboys beating the Dragons and took them when they were at the height of the market as an underdog plus 5.5, or even said take the 3.5 there. Couldn't really see why the Dragons deserved to be a strong favourite, but this was a back and forth game. So 38-26 was the final score to the Cowboys. A game that whoever you were on, whether you were on the Dragons or the Cowboys, you were furious. You were they blew your mind at certain times with the mistakes they made and the chances they butchered. And for the Cowboys, I thought a crucial mistake in the first half when they were only down 4 points and they had a simple draw and pass breakaway to score under the sticks and managed to butcher it with literally 60 seconds to go in the half. So instead of being in front, they're now down 4 and have to defend one final set. And the Dragons, I was watching it and there's 5 seconds to go in the half, and the Hammer, who was playing fullback, was in the tackle. And I'm thinking, okay, I hope he knows, like, he's not just going to sit at marker. I hope he knows there's only one play left. He better get in behind. Sure enough, he doesn't, and the Dragons chip and chase, and Bud Sullivan scores, and the Dragons had a 10-point lead at halftime, which was not great for our Cowboys plus 5.5 bet. It was a positive for Dragons fans to see Amon, Tyrell Sloan, Bud Sullivan all mucking around and playing some exciting footy. But the second half went our way. Cowboys blitz. Cowboys scored 4 straight tries in the second half, got the lead to, I think it was 32-20. Even then, we weren't quite safe. This game had a couple more twists and turns. This game had a out on the full kick that was incorrectly called. Dragons got it back within 6 and were knocking on the door, and the Dragons dropped the ball a metre from the line late. Could have tied the game up with a couple minutes to go. You never know. Like, once a game's tied within one score, you could still lose a game by 6, or certainly the Dragons could have won and actually kept their season alive, but they couldn't quite get there. And then the Cowboys, I think, got an intercept try right at the end. That final score of a margin of 12 by the Cowboys doesn't quite tell you how close this game was. I did say in my preview, the obvious play just seemed to be take overs because they're both pretty bad defensive teams and it's a daytime showcase game at Rocky. But you just wondered if the desperation that neither of these teams, these were the 2 longest losing streaks in the NRL coming together, I think, aside from the Dogs. And also neither of these teams have been that great in attack in recent weeks. So there's sometimes you get bad teams actually aren't good at scoring either. So I know that was an obvious pick to go over, but maybe if you did play the over there, you actually had a sweat-free winner on that one. There was plenty of points in that. Dearden, I don't think, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Tom Dearden has won a game for about a year. So big for him. Cowboys hadn't won for about 10 weeks. So that's something they can grasp onto at least with very late in the year to at least taste victory. Another interesting game was Sharks-Broncos, because the Sharks' equation for them was still that they really need to win their final 2 games of the season. Well, they've done half of that, and beating the Broncos here, the Sharks are still going to need to beat Melbourne almost certainly next week to get in. We'll talk about that more in a second, but they did get the win here, 24-16. I did lean to the Sharks minus 5.5, which they covered in the end, but it wasn't cut and dry. I think the real key moment in this game was actually when the Broncos were up 10-4, and who was it? Flegler flying out of the line and just gets his hit a bit wrong, contact a bit high. Sinbin, Sharks score 14 straight to end the first half. I think at least 8 of those, at least 12 of those with Flegler in the bin. And then Sharkies also score first to open the second half. So I'm talking about 20 unanswered points by the Sharks. And even then they weren't home. The Broncos scored again. Milf again looks like he's actually playing well now that he's got no pressure on him and we know that he's leaving the club. Broncos within 8 points. They were actually coming for the Sharkies, but once again, they got derailed by a sin-binning. Piakora, this young kid that's got a lot of raps in him that Brisbane has signed to a pretty handsome contract. He got his debut. Within a few minutes, he was sin-binned, and that obviously hurt the Broncos' opportunity to make a fight back, so they fell short. Again, credit to the Sharkies. It wasn't pretty, but they got the job done. And the thing about this Cronulla team which I think is in the box seat to make the finals. Again, it will depend on the squad that Bellamy names. But you look at that Cronulla Sharks squad, they do not have one star player now. Even you look at Brisbane, you got a guy like Payne Haas there, and before Staggs got injured, guys that can put a team on their back. Where this Cronulla team, maybe you used to say that about Wade Graham or Sean Johnson certainly was that, but these guys aren't there. And it's everyone as a collective is putting in and getting the results that could get them into the finals, which looked like no shot. You remember earlier this year where they had lost like 5 or 6 in a row. They knifed Johnny Morris, but a lot of guys standing up. Jesse Ramian having a really good year. Connor Tracy, Will Kennedy at the back. So Sharkies, if the Storm plays the second team next week, the Sharkies are going to beat them and they're going to get into the finals. Moving later Saturday. So this is like the craziest result of the season. I think in the Eels 22 beating the Storm 10, we did have a best bet, which was the Storm's second half line, minus 11.5. It was poised pretty well, 10 all second half, 10 all at half time. And you're thinking, well, now we're only laying half of the full line. We're laying 11.5 instead of laying the 22.5. But the Storm didn't score again. So rewind to that. My theory that I talked about coming into this round was that this would be a great round for these big gun sides to really put up a great performance. And the Storm had so many reasons to play well this weekend. Full strength squad, basically. I know maybe like Dale Finucane, maybe Nelson is still yet to come back into the team, but close to full strength. Remember, the Storm have rested like 4 to 5 players nearly every week. So this was as close to the strongest side that they'd named for most of this season. They're off a 9-day turnaround. They're shooting for the all-time record of 20 straight wins. They also had the opportunity to lock up the minor premiership, which would have given them the ultimate luxury to do whatever they want in 25. And on top of that, they're playing an Eels team that you nearly had to say was close to dead. Now, this is something that I keep an eye on every year. There are teams that just run out of petrol. And it's never as simple as like, all right, in round 19, we established that Parramatta's out of gas. Let's just bet against them every week. I would never just bet against a team every week blindly because the market reflects the former teams. But there are certain teams when I see they're performing way under their ability, I just say, no, I don't want any more part of that team this year because it's not worth it. Even if I think it's value, they're not playing up to their ability for whatever reason. Maybe there's things in-house, I don't know. So that's the kind of team like Parramatta was where I just say, I'm either not playing them or I'm betting against them. And we profited really well betting against Parramatta during their worst period of the season. And then like last week where I thought Parramatta could actually bounce back against the Cowboys, I just said, well, leave that alone. But this week, I didn't see really how they could compete with the Storm. Campbell Gillard is out. Reid Marnie is out. They'd lost Sevo for the year as well last week. So that's why this game was so shocking to me when you consider all of that context. And Parramatta scored first, definitely looked up for it, but the Storm got back in front 10-6. Eels scored on the stroke of half-time, 10-all. You still feel like what you've watched from Melbourne Storm, obviously all of this year and even go back all of last year and even go back the last decade. I mean, you don't really worry about the Storm. They're so good and they're so ruthless and they've got so many talented players that you always just think they're going to go bang, bang and score a couple tries. We're just accustomed to seeing that. So I kind of think, go back to that game against the Cowboys that they just scraped home, or that game against the Raiders that was a bit closer than it should have been late, or even this Titans game last weekend where they found themselves down 10-0. It's like you never really thought they were going to lose. You just assume that they're going to come good at the end. So that's how I felt in this game. Eels scored a penalty goal, got their nose in front. You're still kind of thinking Storm will get one try and then kind of hurt the Eels and get a couple more. But then the Eels got it out to 16-10 with like 10 or 15, 20 to go. Starting to feel like, geez, the Storm now needs to answer here. And there was no answer. And that's where you start to worry. Like, I don't know what the excuses were for the Storm this week, like whether they're just waiting for the finals or what. But when they really needed to respond, they didn't have anywhere to go. Now, again, you give all the credit in the world to the Eels. They were bang up for it. They were so physical. And that was such an impressive performance. And from their point of view, I think they know that they're going to be resting people in round 25 as well. So this was another team that could lay it all on the line. But it does worry you a little bit just considering that what was at stake for the Storm and what they've been able to do this year. And they just couldn't get there. So now you've got Parramatta kind of resurrecting themselves and just reminding everybody what they're capable of. If they perform like that, they're not going to be easy beats in the finals. And for the Storm, they're now in a crazy position where they could lose the unlosable. They could lose the minor prem, which you'd had to think was wrapped up weeks ago. If the Storm choose to rest all their starters next week because they're more focused on the finals, then Penrith could very well beat an Eels team that is probably resting as well, and Penrith will get the minor premiership. So it comes down to how much the Storm value the minor premiership in terms of how strong of a squad they pick next week. It also comes down to, does Bellamy feel they need a good performance next week because he doesn't want to take bad form into the finals? And it also depends on how Bellamy judges have guys like Pappenhausen, Nico Hines, guys that have split time, Harry Grant, guys that have already been out for a few weeks. Do they need an extra game, or is it just not worth the risk? Because as we've seen in the modern day NRL, any player can get injured any game, any player can end up on report any game, any player can get a head knock, even an innocuous one. And in those terms, maybe the Storm takes no risk next week. So that is going to be fascinating. Tristan alluded to that. All eyes are on the team list, and it's all about the mentality of the Storm and in terms of how much they value a performance and a result next weekend. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Next game today was Manly against the Bulldogs. As I said, we were hoping for a Manly kind of 30-plus victory to keep the mixed matchup, in our favour. And I think Manly was down 12-10 at halftime. So this was yet another game where a team that we thought should be way too good was just so off the boil and so off the pace, and just Manly just wasn't as sharp and not executing the way we've been accustomed to for the last 10 weeks. I think they dropped the ball 4 times in this game over the line, and in fact, one of the times they dropped it over the line was Tommy Trbojevic. It was actually awarded a try, so we're actually kind of lucky in that sense. But the Doggies, I just felt it was frustrating because the Doggies were playing solid, sure, but the Seagulls were just letting them hang around, and even if you let a bad team hang around, then they can just score sometimes out of the blue. So that's kind of how it was. Manly just not being ruthless, not putting the Doggies to bed. And then second half got a bit better. Manly kind of extended that lead, actually executed, got the ball to Tommy Trbojevic. He did his thing, and Manly ends up getting out kind of a couple of really crazy tries at the end of this game. I'm not sure if this affected anyone's bets. Maybe those crazy tries at the end killed you if you had the under. Let me know. But with about 4 minutes to go, Manly's up 18, and I was hoping Manly could actually get one more try before the death. Bulldogs kick off. The ball goes into the breeze, bounces awkwardly, and the Bulldogs just regather the kickoff and sprint straight through the line and score a try. I don't think I've ever seen a team score untouched off their own kickoff before. And then the final play of the game, it's only a 12-point game. So again, this has implications if you'd bet like Manly 13 plus or whatever. And it's a Daly Cherry Evans intercept, and then he just shelves it off to Jason Saab, final play of the game. So Manly gets a try out of nothing as well. So those two kind of cancelled out, but it doesn't necessarily cancel out if you played the total or something like that. That's 12 points that were pretty crazy and pretty unlikely right at the end of that game. And finally, another frustrating one. But this one really hurts me as well because we had a best bet on the line, and coming into this 2-2, we could have got back with a 60% best bet round, which is what, is a great achievement each and every week if we can hit that. We had the Panthers minus 13.5 second half line. Again, that theory that I have that I like to try and exercise, which is if you like the underdog, stronger in the first half, and if you like the big favourite, they're more likely to extend the second half. And that theory was correct in this game. It was pretty tight in the first half. The Panthers were only up, I think, 12-6. Second half, Panthers dominated. The Panthers get all the way out to 30 points to 6. So now we're talking about a 30-point favourite that is winning the game by 24 with like 15 minutes to go. You're feeling pretty comfortable. They'd already covered the second half line at that point. But yet again, we get backdoored by a massive underdog. And this is the second time that the Panthers have done that to us in 3 weeks. They did the same thing to the Dragons, where they looked like they were going to win by 40. And they took their foot off the gas for whatever reason. I mean, Kickow gets awarded a try but spills it over the line. So it was an afternoon of spilling your lollies, unfortunately. And that invites the Tigers back in the final 10 minutes. The Tigers scored 2 tries. We don't cover the second half line. We lose that best bet, third loss of the round. So sour note. And, of course, we needed the Panthers to win that game by more than 42 to win the mixed matchup. because of the Storm and the Seagulls results. And obviously, I still had a little bit of hope for that really late in the game. But once Kickout dropped the ball and then the Tigers came back, that put an end to that. Again, it's just impossible to win that one every week. So I'm sorry that one's come to an end. So again, guys, that's my review of round 24. We just have one 8-match round to go. So round 25, it's always really interesting from a punting perspective and really unpredictable. And that's hard for us, but it's also hard for the bookies to get the prices and the lines right. So I'll do what I do every week, go back to the drawing board and try and see if I can find some value plays for us for round 25. And then also just in general as footy fans, everyone should be starting to get really excited about the finals and the way it's shaping up. And the fact that maybe it's not as predictable as we all thought. We'll see anyway. But I appreciate everybody that tunes in as always. And I will catch you again on Wednesday with my round 25 preview. As always, gamble responsibly and Lego.